2022 Endurance eRacing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriots, Azatec Sim Sports, Global Flix, Motorvision.tv, Stengolm, ESTV and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
To see Lewis McGlade in the chat. He's gone go Burst, right? Yep. Well, then Rasmus Anderson from Burst has gone. Well, yes, Lewis. Felipe Almeida says, "Good luck, Alessio Neto. Do your best. The Brazilian AV community is with you." Justine Camille Roman Semitara saying, "Good luck, Inigo Anton and Team Sem9 Axel." Right. It's crunch time now. I'm rubbing my hands with glee right about now, and there you see picture in picture in picture in picture in picture. So you've got me and Kieran down on the bottom right of your screens, and you've got a lot of other cars as well. Wojtek Polezny leading the GTE field. Once the pace car goes in, it's all to play for. We're going to be going green for 12 hours, Kieran, and it's going to be the first time we see the real battle lines drawn, and I'm expecting a dogfight at the front between Burst Esports Simplexity and Muradness E-Stars.
Yeah, it's going to be... Turn 1's going to be very interesting. It's not really a heavy braking zone, so you've got to bear that in mind as well. It's a very high-speed turn 1, a little bit of banking, a little bit of banking towards the apex to bear in mind. However, when you go through the S's, all about following the car. Make sure you remember you've got a heavy car going through the Casio curve, the Dunlop curve.
Yep.
As it goes uphill, make sure you counteract that shift of the weight. Should be an interesting first lap.
Okay, the field making its way through into 130R, led by the Corvette pace car. Ladies and gentlemen, the first round out of 6 soon to be getting underway here at GTR 24H Wojtek Polezny is leading Zoltan Varkonyi, two incredible talents within GTE. Then they've got Manuel Biancolila and Michael Francesconi just behind. DIS Sim Racing Lab, an own quantity here. Andy Kirsten, a former GTR 24H winner in terms of the championship. Pace car in the pits. Right then. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to get racing for the first time in 2022. Hold on. Green flag waves and off and away we go, and it's already dodgems between the two leaders in LMP2. Juice is trying to get on the opportunistic move round the outside of the first corner as Michi Hoyer, I'm just trying to see, Michi Hoyer is leading by a considerable margin over Jimmy Sula. And at the moment, Wojtek Polezny leading the way in GTE. We're riding on board, looks to be turn lower in the number 77 LMP2 car. Might have Inigo Anton just up ahead, but already a good start by the field. They kept it nice and neat and tidy, but I have to say, D'Alessandro from Juices was looking rather opportunistic round the first corner on Damian Skovron from Burst Esports Good as Sunglasses, Kieran.
He was indeed. There was that little bit of contact going into turn one, to be expected really with a competitive feel. You do tell them it's a 12-hour race, that they instantly throw that out the window as soon as they hear green, but we see there the number 77 trying to find a way through. Team Iris with a lovely livery trying to make that work as they make their way and try and go up the order. Currently fourth in class as they make their way towards the spoon curve, and all about just making sure now, make it through the first lap. The rest of the race, anything could happen. You've just got to be prepared and react accordingly.
Run up to 130R down the back stretch. We're on board with the fourth placed LMP2 car, turn lower from Team Iris. We head back. I think that is the leader at the moment, Michi Hoyer from Burst Esports Simplexity, through the Casio triangle for the first time. Nice use of curbing there on the entry to it. And they are pushing like crazy. It's only the first lap in the books, but Michi Hoyer seems to be stretching a little bit of a lead. He's pulling over 270 kph as he crosses the start-finish line. And we're already on to lap number 2, and we're just going to see a little bit of a... Now, you've caught something here, Kieran. What happened here? Oh! Cyberlinks having a massive slide coming out of Spoon Curve, and Team Adrenaline was just in front. That was Arturas Mazaitis in the number 33 car from the DPIs.
It was indeed, and yeah, just a little bit of a mistake there, and it's led them to go slightly behind the DPIs and the LMP2s, but most importantly, did not get caught by any of the GT cars. That's going to be really, really important for Cyberlinks Racing. So just a bit of an early mistake, but you know what? Get the early mistakes out of the way now.
Yes, indeed. The earlier it happens in a 12-hour race, the easier that you can counteract it through strategy and good management. But the lead already that Michi Hoyer has over Jimmy Sula, he's done a Sebastian Vettel like back in his Red Bull days. It's over 2 seconds. We're only on our second lap of the race.
He did say he was going to start, and him being at the start, at the front, there was going to be only one way that was going to end up, considering he was the only driver in the 142s in the day session in qualifying.
Yeah.
It's no surprise to see him pulling away at the rate of knots that he is. Meanwhile then, leader of the GTE class is the number 74 Juices Motorsport Academy car, currently driven by Wojtek Polezny. A good start from him. He's able to get himself a bit of a gap between himself and the 67 Mugen Sim Racing machine. It's not much, but it's good enough for now.
Yes, indeed, and that looks to be Wojtek Polezny there behind the wheel, and has extended the gap to about the best part of 3/4 of a second over Zoltan Varkonyi in the 67 Mugen Sim Racing car, with Manuel Biancolila a further, who's about 1.3 seconds, as Varkonyi looks to be closing a little bit as they're going through out of 130R into the Casio triangle. At the moment, Christopher Kianik leading the way ahead of Magic Kasperczyk from Volante Racing by Azatec Sim Sport, and Callum Wilson, the Glam Racing 404 car, started P2 on the grid and is about 1.3, close to 1.3 seconds behind. And then looking a bit further up, Damian Skovron leading the way. Michi Hoyer leading in, and he's already put in a 1 minute 45.9. That's the fastest lap of anybody this race. But I would think, looking at this strategy, Burst are trying to get that initial advantage, whereas Maradnas E-Stars in the 64 with Yumi Nisula behind the wheel, they're going to try and just mediate what's happening. And already Is that me, or I'm seeing Viaducton? They've moved up into 20th overall, so they're now going to start moving up through the GT3 field. They've got Angel Bangaras from MCN Motorsport in the number 27 car just up ahead. And what's Viaducton going to do? Threading the eye of the needle up the inside through into the Dunlop before they hit the Degners. 4th gear, then hard on the brakes into 2nd, rotate the car through under the bridge. They've got DIS to negotiate. Very young crew, but they're already making some strides, and I would say probably in the next handful of laps, I did say they need to do something in the first 60 minutes. They're getting on with it rather rapidly indeed.
They are. It was always important to make sure you dispatch the cars off them and make sure you get past them cleanly. Don't take too many risks in the opening few laps. Just make sure you get past all the GT cars, then you can focus on the rest of the race later down the line. That was always going to be the plan for Viaducton, starting from the pit lane. Yeah, it's going well so far, and they're making light work right now of the GT cars. That's to be expected, really, comparing the two cars there. However, it's not easy because they've got no blue flags, those GT cars. That is for overall positions, so there's going to be no blue flags whatsoever for them.
We're on with Arturas Mazaitis from Team Adrenaline. I'm actually riding on board. He's using... and this is actually quite interesting, that where people do not have the room, they go full VR, and it's quite a real shot in the arm when it comes to realism. You can see that he's talking to the team on his headset, but he's also just concentrating on what he needs to do. That car currently sitting in 5th place in LMP2, not LMP2, DPI, I've already done that once already, I'm sure that's not going to be the first time, but trying to keep pace, is about 1.6 seconds off of Unison Racing's Denis Eshenko in the number 17 Unison Racing car. That rounds out the top 4 in DPI, but top 3 in the respective classes at the moment. It's Michi Hoyer for the number 18 Burst Esports Simplexity car, leading the overall race, and is setting purple lap after purple lap ahead of Jimmy Nisula, with Nakib Aslan for the number 11 Sem9 Axel. LMP2, it's Damian Skovron leading the way for Burst Esport. Good Sunglasses, the 94. Darius Andre for Juices Motorsport, and Inigo Anton for Sem9 Axel. Kieran, what's the prognosis, or what's the current situation in GTE and GT3?
Well, it's looking like for GTE, it's still Juices Motorsports Club in the 74, leading the way from Mugen Sim Racing in the 67. Rounding off the top 3 is the 54 machine of the Musto Pescara team. And then in GT3, it's Mugen Sim Racing in the number 82, leading the way from the 585 Volante Racing by Aztec Simsport, and 3rd place in class at the moment, the 404 Glam Racing machine. Satellite Racing, who did have to start all the way at the back, having not set a qualifying time, are not bottom at the moment. They're 27th overall. They have passed the B32 Racing machine and are making their way up the order, or at least trying to. Team Viaducton, meanwhile, have cleared all the GT cars. Their next target now is an NMP2 car. It's the 241 of Cyber Lynx Racing.
Just keeping an eye on the battle between the two GTE leaders, who are now making their way through the Casio Triangle as we speak. Varkonyi is trying to get the car in the crosshairs in front, and that is the Juices Motorsport car. That is Wojta Polezny, very great, good driver from the Czech Republic. As we see on the main screen, Juices Motorsport right up close and personal with Burst Esport, Good Sunglasses. So that battle is really heating up. Here's Wojta Polezny and Mugen Sim Racing about a second adrift. So the gap between them has been anywhere between half a second to a second. So it looks like Mugen at the moment are trying to just keep pace. They're trying to keep them in the crosshairs. And when we come to those first round of pit stops, Kieran, we're going to see how the strategies unfold, whether teams have decided to use a lower engine map, a lower fuel map, in order to mitigate their strategy. Because one of the other things is that people can actually listen into the team radios of the teams themselves whilst this is going on. So the teams, the engineers, will be talking in their TeamSpeak channel. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. There'll be people looking at data, giving advice, saying, right, okay, you've outbraked yourself by 25 metres going into the deadlands. You need to slow it down a little bit earlier. Now the apex, get it through for the second one, and then that helps you going through into the hairpin. It's all about swings and roundabouts, and it never is easy when it's a 12-hour race, and we're getting close to the first quarter of an hour already completed.
We are indeed, and yeah, when it comes to pit stop strategies, we get an idea and a chance to see what is the thinking for the engineers, for the drivers, and everyone involved with the team. We'll have to wait and see how it all pans out. Of course, different manufacturer of cars will have different size fuel tanks, especially when you're looking at the GT classes. Interesting to see how that will all develop as well. And as you said, engine mapping is going to be important. Yes, if you're following the car behind, are you in a higher mode that's going to use a little bit more fuel that you'll need to pit earlier? Or if you're leading that battle, are you in too high of an engine mode and others are behind you using the slipstream, are allowed to, you know, save a little bit of fuel, see if they can get 1 lap, 2 laps extra. Then again, around a high-speed circuit with a lot of high-speed corners, you've got to take into effect of tyre wear as well. So it's all these little games that everybody has to play, and whoever comes out at the end of the 12 hours will have thoroughly deserved it.
Right, first penalty of the race has just been issued by Race Control. Drive-through penalty for Cyberlinks Racing, overtaking on the formation lap. That's not exactly the best way you want to start a race, but at least the thing is it gets it out of the way early. And you can see now that the two LMP2 leaders are just behind the Maradness E-Stars car, which has still got Jimmy Nisula behind the wheel. Michi Hoyer, I'm just going to have a look at the gap at the moment. His gap is 7.5 seconds. I'm just going to basically say I am speechless.
Yeah, it's a good job so far from Michi Hoyer. He's absolutely running that car ragged and, you know, building the gap that he needs to build. It's as simple as that. He's doing a great job out there. 7.8 seconds at the moment, and yeah, just doing a wonderful job out there. And it's putting the pressure on the likes of the 64 machine, of Maradness E-Stars, that they also need to keep pushing on to try and catch the car ahead. But there are so many cars behind them. If they make a slight little mistake, there is going to be someone behind them that will definitely try to pick up the pieces.
Well, I'm looking at the latter quintet in GT3 being led by Glam Racing in the 404. Callum Wilson currently behind the wheel. He's got Pedro Delgado from CKR, Carl Lickergaard from DSR Gadgethuset.Decor, Jan Brødsgaard from Teleforingen, and B32 Racing. Really getting close. It's 0.7 between Wilson and Delgado. Lickergaard's a further 0.4 behind the 13, the Brazilian outfit, who have got a wonderfully big Brazilian flag draped over the car. And you can see them coming through the final corner. Just look how close that is for GT3 right now. Absolutely epic stuff, and we're already into the first 15 minutes completed. But just looking at the main picture-in-picture, that Andre is keeping Skovron very much occupied, and Skovron's just going to be told by the team, look, just run your race. Until you have to worry about the driver behind, keep pushing, keep the blinkers on, focus on hitting every apex, every braking point, accelerate at the right time so the back tyres don't spool up. And if you need to make a pass through back marker traffic, make sure it's clear to do so, and make sure that you give them the, as Alexis Zagorodnev, who still runs with Juices Motorsport, running in an own team this time, Cyberlinks Racing, now comes to serve their drive-through penalty. They're now on the back foot, and it's all about what they do now, Kieran, that is going to be rather crucial.
Yeah, as well as drive-through penalty at Matsusaka is not the end of the world. It's your pit speed limit is higher than other circuits, that's for sure. So it's not going to be the end of the world. Thank goodness you didn't get it at Spa-Francorchamps, the drive-through penalty.
Oh, no.
You'd probably still be doing it into the next hour. But, yeah, so just a slap on the wrist there for that one. No harm done. You'd have lost about 15 to 20 seconds. You can press on now with the rest of the race and just iron out those mistakes early on. And now you get a chance to, well, look at it on the bright side. Clean air.
Yeah.
That's what the bright side of this is.
It's always the way, but now already back marker traffic coming into full prominence. That is the B32 racing car. A bit of a Thundercats inspiration on the back end of that livery, I think, even though it has Cougar written on the side of it. But they're quickly making work of the traffic getting through. But it's always about oh my goodness me, did you see that? I just clocked, it's the two 7.9 axle cars side by side going through into the Casio triangle, and it looks like the number 11 has gotten through. Nakib Aslan behind the wheel. His brother's in the sister car. We're going to have Alistair Young in the number 11 at some point during the race itself. I think, if memory serves me correctly, I'm trying to remember, with all these drivers and teams that we've got 28 teams with probably the best part of well over 100 plus the best part of nearly 100 drivers. Now they're having to get past Volante, and then you see once again the battle between 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. And what's happened here?
Their juices are off. Juices are off into the gravel. They've made contact with one of the back markers in the GT cars. They managed to just about recover. They were trying to find a way through in that traffic. They tried to see a gap. The gap opened up, but it was just as quickly as it opened, it slammed shut. So they got away with that one. Not sure whether they scraped the barrier or not. In any case, you can see in the background there one of the Sem 9 machines getting really stuck into the action now.
Yeah, as Maradnes E-Stars make their way up the inside of Glam Racing, CKR right with them. Burst Esports, good as sunglasses, now going around the outside through 200R. That's actually a pretty good overtaking opportunity to do that when you're circumnavigating backmarker traffic. And here comes Sem 9 Axel in the number 11. That's got Nakib Aslan behind the wheel, Inigo Anton behind the wheel of the sister car. So we're just going to take a look on board from Glam Racing 404, just how quickly we're on the back stretch. You can see the amount of traffic in the rearview mirror there, Kieran. Team Iris going through, and now Deuces, and they've got Satellite looking towards the back end of them. And it's always about, and then here comes, that's Unison Racing in the number 17. They've just got through. And whilst all this is happening, the biggest caveat here is that when you're in a class like GTE or GT3, and that was a real good perspective we got there on board from Callum Wilson, negotiating the gap between himself and CKR behind, whilst also having to anticipate what the LMP2 and DPI traffic are having to do, aren't they?
That's right. You're thinking about your own race, your own battles out there, but at the same time, you've got to remember that it's up to the faster cars to find their way around you. As long as you hold your line, you should be okay. And if you do hold your line, no one's going to be angry at you. No,
that's fair enough. And obviously with the incident involving Deuces, and I think that was 585, Volante Racing have dropped to 6th position in GT3. So Callum Wilson now holding the fort for 2nd position, as there's been more drama for the Juices LMP2 car. Oh, right. That's 2 incidents within 2 laps for Juices, and that is not going to be very happy. You can actually hear that there will be some team radio being broadcasted through the race itself, so we'll actually get an idea from our perspective here in commentary on how things are going. And as you can see, we've got a yellow out in Sector 1, I believe. That could possibly be for Juice's off-track excursion there, as Arturas Mazaitis around the outside of Teleforingen. But there is Glam Racing. Callum Wilson still behind the wheel. Pedro Delgado in that Brazilian flag. I would call that the Ayrton Senna tribute band right there, because, you know, that's a great show of national pride, isn't it? Having that flag, and also the fact that they've got their driver names emblazoned on the rear haunches of that McLaren.
Yeah, you're not going to miss that car out on track, really, are you? As it speeds past, and you know, if you're in the mirrors, you're definitely not missing it. So it's you know, as you say, the Ayrton Senna tribute band look. Yeah. It's it's lapping around there. You never guess what country that team's from, though. You would never
what
guess.
What was it? Yusuf said yesterday, Spain or something like that.
Portugal.
Portugal.
Yeah. It was a pretty good guess, I think.
Well, but also I've just been keeping an eye on Jan Granqvist. Is now over halfway through the GT3 field, as we see Henrik Hoyer and Maria Rinhack. Maria being the team principal for Glam Racing. Good to have them in the studios earlier on this week. We've got a yellow out in Sector 3, I believe, and that's just been briefly retracted. But we stick with the GT3 battle for now. And then Wojtek Polezny, looking very close between them and Mugen Sim Racing for Zoltan Vorkonyi. These 2 cars were trading lap times, like more times than I've had hot dinners on a Sunday afternoon, Kieran, and that would be roast dinners, I might add. Really good close competitiveness between those 2 cars at the moment. There's now DPI traffic, that is Maradnes E-Stars, and looks to be Nakib Aslan in the Sem 9 Axel. So the battle for 2nd in DPI really heating up, but what Nakib's got to do is quickly get past Deuces. He can't be that close to the car, surely, can he? He's going to wind it up, put the volume pedal down to up to volume number 11, in other words the accelerator thereof, and Burst Esport Good Sunglasses still with Damian Skovron behind the wheel, gets through. So good awareness from both Wojtek Poleżny and Zoltan Vorkonyi heading through into 130R, where the GTE cars are pushing in 6th gear at around about 250 kilometres an hour. And there's Manuel Biancolila for MPE, currently 3rd in GTE at the moment. You can just see the... that's a real good sign of realism, that the camera that he's engaged in with the Google Meet, you can see that as he turns the steering wheel, it starts to shift from left to right, doesn't it?
It does, and it's almost matches the vibrations as the gets the force feedback coming through there. You can see going through the first turns here, you see it shaking, the force feedback giving the driver the idea of if the car is actually gripping onto the road, and by how much as well. You can normally tell pretty quickly if you haven't got the grip out there. And just through the S's here, the GT cars, all about patience through here. Don't overcommit going through these corners. The last thing you want to do is understeer at any point through those S's before you get to the Dunlop curve. Otherwise, the whole of the first sector pretty much becomes a write-off.
And at the moment, things are looking a bit hot and heated at the moment between 2nd and 3rd in GTE, as Jan Granqvist for Satellite Racing is now with them and is looking to get past at the earliest opportunity. They're going through the S's right now, where they're pushing about 150 kilometres an hour. Different lines taken from Callum Wilson, a bit more flamboyance from Pedro Delgado there through the latter part as they're going to go through Dunlop and head towards the Degner. Jan Granqvist is sizing up a move but looks to think better of it. Discretion is the better part of valour. And we're going to keep our eyes for a couple of minutes before we go to a commercial break on what's happening. But really good to see that Carl Lickergaard keeping things rather nicely planted for the 777 car. As nearly a clash there between 2nd and 3rd in GT3. Delgado nearly outbraked himself, and that could have been disaster for Glam Racing.
Well, millimetrically perfect in stopping that car, whether he meant it or not. In any case, he's right on the back of that rear diffuser right now, and the Glam Racing machine just has to be careful. Meanwhile, we've got a battle here in the DPIs. In fact, that's Jimmy Nisala losing a position to one of the, I think that's Nakib Aslan in the number 11 car. So
change for 2nd in DPI overall and overall in the race. So Nisula will need to get a little bit of a wriggle on. The leader for LMP2 is still with them, so Damian Skovron is very much keeping pace. I'm trying to look at the gaps between 1st and 2nd in the LMP2 class, and at the moment it's about 2.5 seconds as things stand. So really good pace to be seen so far. And with that in mind, we're going to keep our eyes on the action. We're going to go to a brief commercial break here on GTR 24H. Don't touch that dial. The 2022 Endurance eRacing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Azatec Sim Sports, Global Flix, Motorvision.tv, Stengolm, ESTV, and Film Vault Limited.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We turn our attention once again to GT3 as we ride on board with Pedro Delgado from Brazil in the CKR number 13 McLaren, as Jan Granqvist has already gotten past as they're on the backstretch heading towards 130R. This GT3 battle has been absolutely epic from second downwards, but looking at it from this perspective, if Volante hadn't had that incident as... Oh!
Careful now.
Well held. Well held. I mean,
held, yes.
We've seen so many moments coming out of 130R. That is just the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to see as we go to Carl Lickergaard from DSR Gadgethuset.Decor in the 777 Callaway Corvette. The good thing is that from that perspective, you can see there's a smile on his face. He's really enjoying the fun aspect of sim racing, and from that instance, that's what it's all about. Smiles for miles, Kieran McGinley.
Smiles for miles indeed, and yeah, looking pretty good so far. Well, we'll have to wait and see how it's all panning out for the race. And yeah, just moments before the commercial break as well, we saw the number 11 get the way through, and yeah, a pretty good move as well from the 7.9 axle machine on the number 64 car.
Yeah,
a really good move, and you can see just well, I can see anyway, gaps starting to open up just a little bit. Jimmy Nisler just trying to make sure it keeps the car and the pace on, but yeah, Lickergaard here just now trying to negotiate cars up ahead, trying to, well, find a way through.
Right. Yellow out in sector 2. I'm not too sure if there has been an incident of some description, but Carl Lickergaard closing in on Pedro Delgado. Going to hear, well, the team radio. We're going to, if there is any conversation, it could be in a foreign language thereof, and it could be Danish, and it could be something that maybe our Danish viewers will understand, but you can see how hard Carl Lickergaard is pushing. They're coming through Spoon Curve, now down the back stretch, heading towards the fastest corner on the circuit, the iconic 130R. There is a couple of cars up ahead as I see that the 585 Magic Kaspersik right in the wheel tracks of Jan Bredsgaard and nearly looked to put it up the inside through 130R. Thank goodness he didn't do a Fernando Alonso Alareno versus Michael Schumacher in Ferrari, if anyone might remember when the Spaniard put it around the outside of the German. As all Teleforingen having to go ultra defensive through the Casio triangle, keeping the 585 Volante racing car at bay. Well defended there, Teleforingen. They were very close to track limits right there in the entrance, weren't they?
Very slightly close, weren't they? No, it was good, hard battling at the moment just for that position, and who cares what position it's for? It's for a position. You want to have it at this early stage. Give yourself as much advantage as you possibly can, and yeah, great to see that battling just continue even within the first hour of the race.
Yeah, as we keep with Carl Lickergaard, and the gap between these drivers is just about 4/10 as they're going through the S's, as Jan Granqvist trying to get past Callum Wilson. Now they're not battling for class position, because what Jan Granqvist will have is probably the best part of quite a few seconds of clear air in front of him. So the minute he gets past Callum Wilson, who I have to say is, as always, doing a really, really good job. Karl Likegaard wide out of the second Degner, as is the 585. Oh my goodness me. Kaspersik nearly getting it all onto the grass, and that could have put the car off the track and maybe clatter with the barriers, as now Jan Granqvist gets past. What Callum Wilson will be told by Maria Rinhak and Henrik Hoyer: don't battle this guy, let him go. We've got our own race to fight, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're half a second ahead of this battle. It's now 6.5 tenths.
That's a little bit of a moment there from the 264 Satellite Racing Machine coming through the spoon curve, and the Glam Racing Machine wants to put a nose up the inside, almost running side by side as we head towards 130R. It's going to be a little close, but who's going to blink? It is going to be Callum Wilson, who does blink, and now they've got LMP2 cars to deal with.
No, that's the DPI. That's the DPI car of 7.9 Axel and Pedro Delgado right on the back bumper. Viaduct and Moradnas E-Stars also in the middle of all of this. At the back end of this train, behind Karl Likegaard, will be Damian Skovron from Burst Esports, and he goes round the outside as we've got another yellow out in Sector 2. So whether someone's had a bit of a moment at the minute, but Jan Granqvist now has a little bit of an opportunity to pull away from Callum Wilson, and he already has done so, as the number 21 Inigo Anton piloted Sem9 Axel LMP2 car goes round the outside of the 777 Callaway Corvette C7 GT3. And now here comes Team Iris, turn lower, right round the outside onto the apex. Yeah, I have to say, I have to applaud Karl Likegaard right now, Kieran McGinley, because that was spatial awareness at its finest. As, oh no, Delgado slightly impeding turn lower, who's firing it round the outside, and he's going to get 2 for 1. Double bubble there, gets past the remainder of the top 3 in GT3, and dealt with that rather expediently.
Yeah, Delgado's just trying to do everything he can to get the move on the Glam Racing Machine, the 404, as they head their way in towards the hairpin now. But yeah, a little bit too close for comfort with the faster cars going around the outside, but Delgado will put that behind him and just try and refocus and put even more pressure onto the Glam Racing Machine Callum Wilson. Yet more fast cars coming through, and just making sure Delgado sees the car coming up the inside, which he does, and making sure that the Satellite Machine, the 164 LMP2 car, does make its way through, which it does. And you've got to be careful about the traffic coming through as well. Being part of the traffic, you could use the DPIs and the NMP2s to your advantage, because it will put the car ahead, maybe slightly offline and maybe slightly off concentration.
Well, someone who is firmly concentrated for third spot in GT3, Karl Likegaard, really up close and personal. As right, we've had a first pit stop of the race on lap number 19. Michi Hoyer pits from the lead, and that unleashes Nakib Aslan to try and pull a gap over Jimmy Nisula, and that gap is now 1.3 seconds. Looks like Viaducton are also going to be in, as the number... So Michi Hoyer has now effected the pit stop and has gone back out on track, I think. So it's going to be interesting over the next few moments who decides to blink. If Burst Esports Simplexity have gone for all out, let's just do like Audi or Toyota at Le Mans, just push like crazy. And sometimes by doing that, you're either going to have two things. You're either going to have a moment that takes you out of the race or out of contention for the victory, or it's going to be the strategy that you push and your rivals fall by the wayside like water under the bridge.
Yeah, and the strategy behind pushing, though, is that more often than not, it involves more pit stops to make up for the pace you have. As we see there, the number 11 car, Nakib Aslan, just playing with the rear end there, going through spoon curve, managing to gather it up then in the Sem9 Axel Machine as he now makes his way on towards 130R. And so with those first couple of pit stops, it is the number 11 Sem9 Axel who's leading the DPI Hyperclass car.
Yeah, and they're coming up. Bit tail happy there for Nakib Aslan coming through the Casio Triangle exit, but manages to get past DIS and also the 166 of ID SimSport, both in GTE. And it's Marcus Ster behind the wheel of the 166. I will hazard a guess it might be Andy Kirsten or one of their newer drivers that have joined the grid for this year. But good thing is, well, at the moment, I've seen that Viaducton are just, well, they've just exited pit lane. Quite a lengthy stop for the number 1 car. But back again to GT3, it's as Chris Buxton would like to say, it's the GT3 conga line, and there's 4 of them right now, led by Callum Wilson, Pedro Delgado, Carl Lickergarden. Magic Kaspersik has got past Jan Brødsgaard from Teleforingen in the 188 BMW M6 GT3, and they've got Unison Racing in the DPI number 17 trying to filter their way through, as is the recovering number 15 Juices Motorsport car that started a bit further up the order. They started actually on 2nd position in the class, and they're down in what is 5th position, so they're trying to make some headway, and Darius Andre has the presence of mind to put the car exactly where he needs to, up through the inside through Dunlop, heading into the Degners, and then we'll wait before the run down to the hairpin for the next opportunity to get past Callum Wilson for Glam Racing. And this is crucial track management. We're seeing it already. We're into just over the first half an hour. We're going to head to Manuel Biancolila, and no, it's not Manuel Biancolila, that looks to be turn lower from Team Iris, already making mincemeat of the traffic. And there is Team Adrenaline, Taurus Mazaitis, having brought the 33 Swiss outfit into the pit lane. Famous drivers from Switzerland include DTM and Formula E driver Nico Müller, amongst others. And also the late Joe Seifert as well was a Formula 1 racer back in the day before his tragic passing a few decades ago. So plenty of pedigree from Switzerland in its own right, but turn lower from the Netherlands with Team Iris really trying to close on in, and that is for LMP2 position, because just up ahead, that is Inigo Anton, 2nd in LMP2. We've got a race on our hands, folks.
We have. I mean, within the first hour, we've got a race on our hands. Fantastic to see in these early stages. And of course, we've got all of the pit stops to really keep us entertained as we see then drivers into the pit lane, the Unison Racing machine into the pits, all the way down to the bottom of the pit lane there, as they look to get at least get some fuel on board. Also, when do the driver changes happen? Rarely you'll see a driver change after the first hour of the race, but who knows, it might have been a very, very demanding first half an hour, first 45 minutes. You just never know, and it could be part of the strategy as well.
Yeah, we see Karl Lickergaard has the number 241 of Cyberlinks Racing's Alexei Zagorodnev just behind, going through into the S's, and Alexei will go through on the next corner. So Carl will pull the car as far to the right hand side as possible. Alexei will go off the traditional racing line to make the move up the inside. And the blue lights are flashing, so the drivers in the GT3 class and the GTE class will be aware there is faster traffic coming up to get past them. And I'll be completely honest with you, I was wondering what was going to happen with the backmarker traffic, and I think both parties relatively have done a very good job. Nakib Aslan pits from the lead in hypercar. That will now unlock Jiminy Sula from Moradness E-Stars into the lead. The good thing is that we're now seeing there's a different strategy. 22 laps, and Nakib Aslan comes into pit lane in the number 11 car. We've also got Inigo Anton, so it looks like the two Sem9 Axel cars here, Kieran, are working on probably a unilateral strategy.
Yes, and there's always an odd thing. If you're really matching strategies, that's the Unison Racing car launching it, Denis Ischenko, in towards the first Degner, but fair play to him, he's still right onto the back of that Team Adrenaline car. There's the Sem9 Axel machine leaving the pits and joining onto the circuit, Inigo Anton, and the sister Sem9 Axel machine in 4th in class at the moment, making his way down the pit lane as well, rejoining the action. But yeah, always know if you're on the right strategy. If someone's pretty much matching you all the way through, it might even give you an opportunity to sort of, have a second guess. Not only am I on the right strategy, but if I'm matching you, what have I got to gain here? I've just got everything to lose. If you're the car behind and you're doing the same strategy as the car in front, you're not actually gaining anything. It's up to you to make the difference and make the change, and see if you can pit maybe a lap earlier or even a lap later.
Yeah, D'Alessandro from Juice's Motorsport has been in the pit, is just exiting out of pit lane. And Wojtek Polezny still leading the way in the GTE class. We did talk about the fact that Juices have been hard at work behind the scenes, and I had a very good catch up with superstar DJ from Durham himself, Mr. Nick Newcomb, on the official press conference. You can see now how hard Wojtek Polezny is working behind the wheel and talking to the team the whole time, but that gap has become substantial in terms of the GTE lead right now, and that is 2.8 seconds between Wojtek Polezny. Zoltan Varkonyi rounds out the top two, nearly 3 seconds adrift, and then Manuel Biancolila for Musto Pescara in third. The sister car with Michael Francesconi rounds out the top four, ahead of ID Simsport in the number 166, with Marcus Ster still behind the wheel. DIS in sixth, ahead of Angel Banganas from MCM Motorsport, and Yusuf Bin Sahil's favourite livery car, the 717 of Unison Racing, ahead of Jan Granqvist. So 9 cars from GTE still circulating. GT3, it's Christopher Kianek from Slovakia that leads the way. We've got a fight on our hands. Watch out, Karl Likkegaard, you've got Maciej Kasprzyk behind you from Poland, and the pole is about, well, less than 3.5 tenths of a second behind, but we know Karl Likkegaard will definitely put up a fight. Karl did channel his inner Valtteri Bottas grass-cutting skills from Red Bull Ring 2020 in the Mercedes-AMG W11, if I remember correctly. Both him and Mads, his teammate, they both, Mads did the style points and then Karl did the grass mowing, so in the same car, in the same session. It just goes to show that there's been a lot of highlights so far, but the racing now, you said about, we're now getting into that stage where things are happening, pit stops are happening. So Turn Lower has just come out of the pits. I think I did see Alexei Zagorodnev, I think I also came out of the pits as well, maybe at the same time, not 100% sure, only just caught it. But the good thing is that you're now seeing, and here we go, Karl Likkegaard is still keeping pace with Pedro Delgado. Pedro Delgado, last lap, 2 minute 1.416. Karl Likkegaard a tenth behind on pace, but Kasprzyk was the quickest of the trio, 2 minute 1.399. You can tell now at the moment they are running with a full laden ballasted car with fuel, and also the tyres. We're going to see quite a lot of changes in terms of the strategy with GT3 GTE, but also up until 11th position the leader has lapped those drivers, and at the moment it's an LMP2 car leading the way with Nello Pastorino in the 164 for Satellite Racing.
Absolutely, and they'll be looking to keep that on board. And as you say, a heavy car at this stage, you're going to have to cope with a heavy car where at certain points in the race even. So
yeah.
You're just going to have to live with that. It's not qualifying anymore. You've got to make sure you keep that car on the road and really just make sure you get the most performance out of it that you possibly can, and just make best with what the equipment is in front of you. Looking at a couple of the standings all around, I was just having a look and seeing what the gaps are like out there, and well, when it comes to the likes of Hypercar, everyone seems to be pretty evenly spaced out. We do have a battle of Team Adrenaline and Unison Racing, the number 33 and the number 17 possibly having a battle very soon, although we do have yellow flags in sector 1 which have been quickly cleared, so that's normally a sign of drivers getting out of the way, is normally what that is. Team Adrenaline currently running, I believe, 4th in class at the moment, but yeah, so far, apart from GT3 here, looks like the field's evenly spaced out for now.
Yep, there's the 188 GT3 BMW of Teleforingen, and at the moment that car is being piloted by Jan Brødsgaard, and doing a pretty good job. I mean, the M6, a real icon in GT3 racing, obviously for 2022. That car now has a heart and a home in the BMW Motorsport Museum in Munich. A great car that has been run in DTM, the GT World Challenge Europe, and Americas and Asia, amongst others. It's also featured with Team RLL, with the IMSA WeatherTech sports car program, and it's good to see that Teleforingen have brought it back here to the EEWC.
Definitely, and it's one of those that's it's a car you just simply won't forget, really, isn't it? It's made its way in history, as you say. Museums even fall over themselves to have the car displayed. It's a wonderful piece of history, and yeah, great to see it racing out there. Great to see also some racing going on. They may be over 2 different classes, but the drivers will not care. The teams might have another opinion on it, but when you're driving behind that car, if there is a car in front of you, you want to pass it, no matter what class it's in.
As quickly and as humanly possible.
Yes.
But at the moment, Michi Hoyer still now retakes the lead after drivers have pitted. So top 3 at the moment, Michi Hoyer for Burst Esports Simplexity, ahead of Nakib Aslan and Jimmy Nisula, rounding out the top 3 in that class. LMP2, what's the situation there at the moment, Kieran, in terms of the top 3?
LMP2 at the moment is Burst Esports Goodar Sunglasses, as driven by Damien Scovron, followed by the Sem 9 Axle Machine, the number 21 driven by Inigo Anton, and then 164 Satellite Racing rounding off the top 3 in LMP2.
Right, GTE at the moment, as things stand, it is still Wojtek Polezny for Juices Motorsport, Zoltan Varkonyi in GTE, and Manuel Biancolila. Oh,
that's a move.
That was a send and a half right there. Well done, Magic Kasperczyk up the inside through the hairpin of all places, I believe, going through in towards 200R. Absolutely brazen move from the car that started pretty much in 3rd place behind Glam Racing. So they're starting to make a resurgence. They've got Cyberlinks towards their outside, and that has opened a bit of clear air for Carl Lickergaard to start chasing down Callum Wilson in the 404 car just up ahead. We're now going a little bit further up towards 130R on board for the LMP2 car from the chase cam with Team Iris as Adrenaline to the outside. This is going to get close side by side between the pair, but turn lower. Really doing a great job just to get past Arturas Mazaitis, who has gone full virtual reality immersion, and you can see by the gesticulation there from turn lower, absolutely not happy with the situation. And that just goes to show that the drivers in LMP2 are just as passionate, emotional and competitive as anyone else in the grid.
I mean, those 2 drivers are in different classes. Let's be clear about that one. But they are racing as if it matters to them personally. So, I mean, yeah, you can see Tayan Lower is getting annoyed at the moment. He knows he can try and find his way past. He'll go round the outside, going through the S's. He might get a little bit of a squeeze there. He doesn't care about that. He's got the move done before the Dunlop curve. And, well, the calmness in his face then, I wouldn't have been that calm for sure.
No. Just been informed by Race Control. New penalty issued. Drive-through penalty for the 166 ID Sim Sport Aston Martin for not leaving enough space on the road just after the pit exit with regards to relation to number 45 DIS. So that's the second drive-through. I wonder what Turner was saying, like, right, I've done him, let's go.
Probably something along those lines. It was
yes.
A brave move, and in these LMP2 cars, yes, they've got a bit more downforce on them, but take nothing away from the move round the outside, as we've got Denis Ischenko getting a move then on the Team Adrenaline car, who ran wide going through the spoon curve. That's handed Unison that position on a plate.
Yes, indeed it did, and looking at it, Unison Racing started 4th, Team Adrenaline started in 5th place in the class as DIS up the inside of ID Simsport through the first corner, and Marcus Ster has to back out of it, but the thing is they've got a drive-through penalty coming their way. They'll have 3 laps to respond, and if not, that penalty will be further exacerbated by Race Control. A big thank you for them to keep in touch with us directly, but now you can see Arturas Mazaitis and Denis Ischenko going into battle. Mazaitis hard on the brakes into the first corner. Ischenko just up ahead, and there. Well, look at the rate of knots. I'm keeping my eye on this GT3 battle right now, because I've got in shot Callum Wilson ahead of Carl Lickergaard. This is for 2nd in GT3, and you know what I see from Carl Lickergaard? He's got the old headlight tactic going, isn't he? Right about now.
He has indeed. He's got to be careful. That's within regulation, though. you've got to be careful with how often you use your headlights. But Likegaard at the moment closing in onto Callum Wilson in the 404 Glam Racing machine for third place in GT3. And Likegaard right now, he's smelled blood and he's wanting that position right now.
Anyone got the Jaws music on standby? Well, we can't play it because otherwise it'd be a copyright strike, and we don't want that happening. However, yeah, the way that he's doing it, and there's a couple of cars that have gone past. Oh, that was Viaduct and getting it all kind of squirrely going through the outside of the first Egner, and manages to keep it pinned. But we're going to stay with this battle for GT3 right now, because through into the hairpin, Likegaard looking to put a move on Wilson for second in GT3. Now out towards 200R, and then the deceptive double left at Spoon Curve. And Likegaard, you can see the focus, the concentration. This is a man well and truly possessed, hard into the braking zone, into the first apex, one of the, as you rightly put, I think it was last night, about Kamui Kobayashi, his favourite overtaking spot, and he was a man that did the old M&M round the outside. But Carl Likegaard keeping Callum Wilson in check. Callum will be getting relayed information from Maria and Henrik at Glam Racing HQ, and Likegaard very much in the wheel tracks. You can see how close it's going to be going through into 130R. They're both at full commitment, both neatly hit the apex on the racing line. Flames spitting from the back of the Audi R8 LMS GT3 2019 variation. And Likegaard, you know what, he's keeping Callum Wilson so honest. Callum Wilson hasn't even got time to really draw breath.
Well, Likegaard down the start-finish straight then towards the first turn. It's not a very long start-finish straight. Not a lot of time to make the slipstream to good effect. But, you know, as long as Likegaard is still in the rear-view mirrors of the Glam Racing machine of Callum Wilson, there's always going to be that pressure applied. A smile on the face of Likegaard there, no doubt, between himself and his engineers and his team. But yeah, he's really applying the pressure at this point. Okay,
so we're fast approaching 5 minutes away from completing the first hour of racing for the 12 Hours of Matsusaka, the opening round of the GTR 24H 2022 Endurance eRacing World Championship here in Japan, one of 4 different continents, as we travel to 6 circuits all the way through right towards the tail end of November. Keep your eyes peeled as we're going to a brief commercial break. The 2022 Endurance eRacing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriots, Azatec Sim Sports, Global Flix, Motorvision.tv, Stengolm, ESTV, and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.